guys, this is Ethan here with another episode of All Talk with Jeds. Today I will be doing a recap of UFC 240, Holloway versus Edgar, and I'll also be doing a preview of the next two UFC Fight Night cards on ESPN, Covington versus Lawler, and I think it's Shevchenko versus Carmouche. But before I get started, I'm going to give you guys a little update on why our videos haven't been too active lately. Obviously, we all got personal lives outside of here. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the crew, but me, I got training going on, lots of workouts. I'm hoping to get my first amateur fight in by the end of the year, but like I said, as far as those other guys go, we're still getting some stuff creatively going and all that. So, yeah, just kind of deal with it for now, but we do plan on getting more content out there for you guys. But, yeah, let's get started. Start off with the recap of UFC 240. I'm only going to do a real in-depth recap for the last two fights, but before I get started on those, I'm going to give a shout out to Davison Figueroa and Alexander Pantoja for their fight of the night. That was an awesome fight. I recommend watching it if you haven't. Hakeem, I do not know how to pronounce his last name. I did catch his head kick knockout though. I look forward to seeing him fight again. This was my first time seeing Viviana Araujo. I'm not too high on Alexis Davis, but I know she's been around for a while, so she knows what she's doing in there. And yeah, I thought Viviana showed some good movement in there and had some good pop on her punches. So yeah, let's see where she goes in the division. Also, good performance by Arman Tsarukyan. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to butcher some of these names, but I did see him against Islam Makhachev earlier this year, so I've been pretty high on him since. Look forward to seeing him again. And Jeff Neal and Nico Price put on a damn good fight. That double knockdown, if you guys saw it, that was some fun stuff to watch. And then obviously the finish was cool. But yeah, let's get into the last two fights. Let's start off with Cyborg versus Felicia Spencer. If I were to do a preview to this fight, I probably would have picked Cyborg by TKO in the first round, but nah, Spencer took some good hits in there and didn't look really phased until the third round, if I had to say so. And also, I've kind of noticed in her couple previous performances before the Nunez fight that that Cyborg struggled with the clinch game against Holly Holm and Tanya Evinger, yeah, she won the belt from. She struggled in the clinch against those girls, and in my head I was like, if Felicia can make it that kind of fight, she will have some good success there. And she was able to hold Cyborg against the fence for long periods of time in the first and second round, and then I think in the third round she did kind of gas a little bit. But overall, I do look forward to seeing Felicia Spencer in there again, and I think the next option for Cyborg, the next one that makes sense, would probably be a rematch with Amanda Nunez, but I know that she doesn't get along with Dana White. Not everybody does. He's a hard person to get along with. Kind of like Vince McMahon in the WWE type of deal, but hopefully they can figure some stuff out on that end, and we get that Nunez versus Cyborg 2 fight going. And also, let's see where Felicia Spencer goes from here. Next fight is the main event, Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar. For the most part, I'd say this fight went the way I expected it to. You know, I thought Frankie did better than Aldo and Brian Ortega as far as featherweights against Max Holloway goes, but for the most part, I felt like Max would be able to keep his distance away from Edgar for the most part. This is another big win for him. I think he mentioned something about he needed a soul stone for his featherweight belt, and this solidifies it. One thing that surprised me in this fight, I kind of thought Edgar would be able to get more takedowns. I didn't think he'd be able to control Max anyway, but I did think he would be able to get more takedowns, so I was a bit surprised by that. But that also goes to show how much Holloway has improved these past 4 or 5 years in the wrestling department. And he's only going to keep getting better, guys, and especially with age too, he's going to keep getting bigger. And I do think that once he's ready, he will make a damn good run at 155. But for right now, I do think him and Alexander Volkanovski is the fight at featherweight for the belt right now. I do think Volkanovski probably presents the biggest challenges out of anybody he's faced, except maybe Aldo. But even then, Aldo's not known for his grappling, which I do feel is what's going to trouble Max Holloway right now. But yeah, that's definitely the fight to make. As far as Frankie Edgar goes, at 145, there's not too many options for him. He's fought just about everybody at 145 right now, so he'd probably end up rematching a bunch of guys, maybe him and Ortega next. Personally, I would like to see him cut more weight down to 135. I do think him versus anybody down there is a good matchup, but him and Marlon Moraes are buddy-buddies, so he might not want to do that. And plus, he's got an ego as far as he didn't even like cutting down to 145, so that's going to be a hard sell. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing Frankie Edgar continue. You know, he's still got a lot of fight in him. Like I said, I do think he did better against Holloway than Ortega or Aldo did. So yeah, we'll see what's next for those guys. But yeah, 240 was a decent card, not the greatest card in the world, but it delivered for the most part. The ESPN cards, once again, we're really going to be in depth with the co-main and main events. Some other fights I'm interested in is the Mickey Gall fight. I like watching him fight, and Antonina Shevchenko, sister Valentina Shevchenko. She's a pretty badass Muay Thai fighter, but we're going to stick with the co-main and main event. The first fight is Jim Miller versus Clay Guida. I was looking at this and I was really surprised that this match hasn't happened yet, because both of these guys have been around since 2006, 2007, 2008, and they've both been mainstays at the 155 division since they debuted. Well, Guida had a bit of a run at featherweight, wasn't too successful, but yeah, like I said, really surprised this fight hasn't happened yet. As far as predictions go, couple years ago I probably would have picked Jim Miller. I'm kind of leaning towards Guida here. I think Jim Miller can't really he still fights at a high pace, but he can't really keep the high pace that he used to be able to when he was fighting like Joe Lozon and stuff like that. But I think Clay Guida shows that he still got it in him to really grind on these guys, and I do think he'll be able to eke out a decision here. If not, if anybody gets a finish here, I do think it would be Miller, but for the most part, I'm leaning towards Clay Guida by decision. All right, the main event for this card, Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler. This matchup is a little bit deceiving. I do think it's kind of a step down for Colby compared to, his last fight was against Dos Anjos, who completely pummeled Robbie Lawler, in my opinion. So this is kind of a two steps backwards fight, but as far as the stylistic matchup, I think Robbie Lawler presents a lot of problems for him, man. The guys that have had success against Robbie, like Dos Anjos and Johnny Hendricks during their fights, they've had success grappling, but they really had to threaten Robbie into stand up before they could really execute their grappling. But if you're a guy like Covington, guys like Ben Askren, and guys like Josh Koscheck, who really only rely on their wrestling for the most part, Robbie can fuck you up. He can definitely land some shit on you on your way in because he sees that coming. You're not really setting your shots up well. He can mess you up. But as far as predictions goes for that one, I'm gonna go with Colby, but I can definitely see this isn't the worst matchup for Robbie Lawler in the division, not by a long shot. We'll see what happens though. I do think Colby will be able to grind him out, whether it's on the ground or against the fence. But yeah, that's a damn good fight for the welterweight division, and this really should round out what's going on with the welterweight division right now. This fight really will determine who gets the next title fight. As far as if Colby wins, it's definitely him. If Robbie wins, and I think they'll probably go the George Masvidal route, almost definitely. But yeah, like I said, damn good fight, and it's a pretty solid card for the most part. Like I said, interested in Mickey Gall and Shevchenko fights, but yeah, let's move on to the next card. UFC Fight Night, Shevchenko versus Carmouche 2. This card isn't really that stacked for real, so I'm just going to go over 3 fights here. The first one we're going to go over is Volkan Ozdemir versus Ilir Latifi. Two kind of middle of the top 10 fighters at light heavyweight. I don't see either being a threat or becoming champion anytime soon, but it's still an interesting fight. Both of them have really proved they're not going to change their styles up anytime soon. As far as predictions go, I'm going to say Ozdemir by decision. I do think he is the higher level of those two guys, and I do think his striking and decent takedown defense will be what steals it here. Ilir Latifi, his best chance is the wrestling and maybe landing a devastating right or left hand on Ozdemir, but for the most part I see Ozdemir tuning him up against the fence and maybe even a late finish, but for the most part I see it being a decision. Good fight though. Alright, the co-main event for this card, Vicente Luque versus Mike Perry. Mike Perry is such a douchebag. I do think he's pretty solid though, just about everywhere. He's a bit of a punching bag, but he's underratingly kind of well-rounded. He's got good wrestling. He uses all of his tools in the stand-up. He has KOs with elbows, KOs with his fist, obviously, and he has a couple knee KOs. So yeah, he's a pretty fun guy to watch. Obviously, even funner to watch in his interviews. A little bit of a ignorant asshole, but fun guy to watch anyway. I am picking Luque here, but is it Luke or Luque? And we're gonna stick with Luque here. Sorry if I'm butchering it, but yeah, I'm gonna go with him. He seems to be on the rise as of late. Fringe top 15 guy. I do think he'll be able to eke it out. Probably use his footwork and movement to frustrate Perry a little bit, which Perry's been prone to get frustrated by guys that kind of circle and use their distance on him, but we'll see. This is a good fight though. Both guys do have knockout power. Both guys have been in some damn good wars and stuff like that, so yeah, I definitely see it being fight of night material, but going with Luque here. Alright, main event time. Valentina Shevchenko versus Liz Carmouche for the women's flyweight title. I was a little bit surprised to figure out this was a rematch that Liz Carmouche actually beat Shevchenko earlier on in their careers, and by a corner stoppage too. That was kind of a surprise for me, but obviously Shevchenko's comes leaps and bounds since then, and Carmouche, probably since before the Ronda Rousey fight, has kind of plateaued a little bit, stagnated, but I'm still definitely going to go with Shevchenko here. Obviously, I think she's the number 2 pound-for-pound women's fighter in the world, just behind Amanda Nunes, who I do feel she did beat in their second fight, so take with what you will there. But yeah, the only chance, it's the same thing with the Jessica Eye fight, and I feel like I'm going to be giving Liz Carmouche too much credit here. I do think she can give problems as far as strength goes in the clinch, but overall, with it being a 5-round fight, I see Shevchenko tuning her up just about everywhere. Clinch, striking, definitely grappling. Yeah, man, I don't see a lot of girls, period, that are beating her. And that women's flyweight division is kind of it's kind of like the 145-pound division for women too. There's just not a lot of bodies there outside of women moving up or moving down and then going back to their original weights. But yeah, Shevchenko should win easily here. I don't know about a finish this time around. Carmouche is pretty tough, but yeah, definitely a Shevchenko win here. Alright guys, that wraps up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed my recap and previews for the upcoming cards. And also, on an ending note, I do hope to be able to start doing Bellator videos in some of my upcoming videos. It did just announce a 16-man featherweight Grand Prix that I'm really excited about. Some solid names in there. Patricio Pitbull, obviously, the champion. Daniel Strauss, Pat Curran, all solid fighters. So yeah, that'll probably be around the time I start doing some Bellator videos. But yeah, until then, this has been Ethan with All Talk with Jeds. And